Good afternoon, good evening, or good night, or tomorrow, depending on where you're watching from. This is the fourth episode of the Unnamed Sports Show. Thank you very much for joining me on this beautiful Thursday afternoon from Vancouver Island. Today on my show, we had another little bit of a hiccup, but I seem to be getting pretty good at dealing with these hiccups, so that's fine. We're supposed to have Adam Reed on from the Brampton Bulldogs from the ECHL to talk a little bit of hockey, but he wasn't able to join me. A little bit of time differences. He thought I meant 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock his time. And yeah, so things got a little bit confused. But we're going to be talking NHL and we're going to be talking hockey nonetheless, because I have Sean Warren from Area 51 podcast on today, and he's going to join me and we're going to talk some NHL. So, and then I have No Remorse Nate Doughty on, and we're going to talk a little bit of sports, a little bit of LA Rams versus the Dallas Cowboys, because that's the first game of the season. I got to lie. I lied to him, telling him that we were talking Cowboys to get him on. Uh, so it'll be pretty good with Nate, and yeah. So let's just get right into it, because it was a big week in sports. We got a lot going on. We had the Bundesliga this week, and we had Der Klassiker. And Bayern Munich did not disappoint with the 1-0 victory over Borussia Dortmund to go 7 points clear of the table. So I keep clicking on the wrong thing and making my Zoom bigger, and I can't see my notes, but that's okay. I will figure that out in a second. So Joshua Kimmich scored a beautiful chip goal in the 43rd minute, just before half, past the keeper, Roman Burki, who kind of was out of his net. He likes to play a little bit farther out, get the angles. And Dortmund had some chances in the second half, including Erling Haaland, who looked to be wide open after beating Jerome Boateng. But Alphonso Davies, the Canadian wonder kid, was able to just track him down from behind. And as Thomas Muller said in the interview, he's the road runner, meep meep. And there's a lot of talk right now about Alphonso Davies at left back for Bayern Munich, just throughout North America soccer, throughout CONCACAF soccer, and even European soccer right now. So, he'll be one to watch for the remainder of the Bundesliga. RP Leipzig squandered a chance to catch up with Dortmund in the table. They were down to 10 men, but they had a lead. They gave up a late penalty to Hertha, and they were able to score and draw it 2-2. Wolfsburg was destroyed by Leverkusen 4-1. It should have been probably a better game, but we got what we got. And Gladbach also failed to gain any ground as they drew 0-0 with Werder. So that moves me into some more football or soccer news as we go into North America, as the MLS has come out with a little bit more, that they will allow teams to have more people on the training pitch. They're going to be able to go into small training sessions and allow 6 players to occupy zones on half a field. It's not ideal, but it's a step in the right direction. Keepers are going to have to sanitize their gloves and disinfect them after practice, and they will not be allowed to spit on them. So all you MLS keepers, take note, do not be spitting on your gloves. Keeping with North American soccer, the North American Women's Soccer League is going to get underway, and it looks like they're going to be the first North American team sport that gets going, which is kind of exciting. I don't know if you've ever been out to a game. I was lucky enough to catch a Portland Thorns game, so I'm kind of a little bit biased on who I'm cheering for. Might have to do with Christine Sinclair, but they're going to be doing a massive tournament starting on June 27th through July 26th. With all 9 clubs, and they'll be facing off in Utah, all of the teams. So go Thorns. Yeah. The English Premier League is also starting back up, which is really exciting. I mean, they've been watching the Bundesliga dominating football headlines in Europe and North America. So they have announced their return to play, which will be June 17th. So mark that down on your calendars, folks, if you are an English Premier League fan. And make sure to check out Rado at Real Football's great piece at sportstalkline.com that he'll get you caught up with everything you need to know about it, what's happening with their coming back, health policies, things are doing like that. So I actually asked Rado to join me today to talk some football, but he said, and I quote, "Have some stuff to do on the boat, going fishing in the manana." Well, if we could all be as lucky as Rado and go fishing tomorrow, wouldn't that be nice? So I hope you catch nothing tomorrow on your fishing trip, Rado. And I really thought we were friends. And I'm actually taking this extremely personal right now. But make sure to check out Rado's article because I'm not actually taking it that personal. So that moves me right along. We're going to move into some NHL news because there was a lot of NHL news in the last couple of days. And if you haven't been following it, then you missed everything. So Gary Bettman made an announcement on Tuesday about the NHL and the NHLPA agreeing on a plan to return a 24-team playoff format with the top four from each conference receiving a bye into kind of a round robin style tournament with regulation, overtime rules applying, and that will determine the top four seeds. Tampa Bay, Washington, Philadelphia, and Boston will be the four teams from the Eastern Conference that receive byes, while St. Louis, Vegas, Colorado, Dallas, St. Louis, Vegas, Colorado, and Dallas will play in the round robin tournament. Sorry, I told you in the first couple episodes that I don't have a strong suit with math. So the other 16 teams will be playing in a qualifying tournament, and their percentage points at the end of the regular season determine their standings for it. So that means we're going to kind of see an NCAA style matchup for the first play-in tournament, and it has yet to be decided by the NHL what we're going to be doing for the first and second actual rounds of the playoffs. They've already said that the conference finals and the Stanley Cup will be 7 games, but they have to figure out, and I guess that would be kind of, time restraint wise, what they're going to be doing with the first and second round. So they don't know if they're going to reseed things or if they're going to do a bracket style. We'll figure that out. So some of the intriguing matchups will be obviously the teams that kind of were on the bubble, the teams don't think should have made it. The number 5 seed Edmonton Oilers and Pittsburgh Penguins against the Blackhawks and Montreal Canadiens. Carey Price could steal a best of 5 series for sure. So, there could be some intriguing things coming out with that. The Vancouver Canucks, which I'm sure everybody in Vancouver is excited about, that we actually get to talk about something other than Judd bracket or, anything other than things that are off the ice. But we got some on ice stuff coming back here. And the Canucks are going to play the 10th seed Minnesota Wild. And Nashville will play the Coyotes 6 and 11, while the Calgary Flames are going to be up tough against the Winnipeg Jets, who should be pretty healthy, and Connor Hellebuck will be all rested for that series. Over on the Eastern Conference, besides the 4 bye teams, obviously Pittsburgh sits at 5 and will play the 12 seed Canadiens. Carolina Hurricanes will play the New York Rangers 6 and 11 there. The Islanders will match up against the Florida Panthers 7-10, and another really intriguing matchup will be 8 versus 9 with the Columbus Blue Jackets coming against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So that will be one to watch. And I know the NHL hockey media is very Toronto centric, so be all eyes on that one, I'm sure. The NHL has also come out with kind of a list of potential hub cities that they could be using. They're obviously going to be looking at using 2, ideally. So right now they've named Toronto, Edmonton, Vancouver make up the 3 Canadian cities, and Chicago, Pittsburgh, Vegas, Columbus, Minneapolis / St. Paul, Dallas, and Los Angeles make up the 7 other possibilities. Canada has talked very much about how they don't want to lax their 14-day quarantine, so I don't see things kind of happening in any of the 3 Canadian cities. I'm not really going to speculate on the front runners for, the actual 2 hub cities, but it's, there's some things in mind. Vegas is definitely on the top list if you're a betting man. And then as, we do have the phases all set out by the NHL, things are very far from finalized. Devin Dubnyk made it very clear that the NHLPA voted on a plan and not necessarily to come back to play yet. Michael Russo from The Athletic did a great article a couple days ago and goes over it very well. So check out his piece for The Athletic. They all do a lot of work over there. Any of the rights for them. I know most people in Vancouver are familiar with the guys that do work for the Canucks. So I will. I'll actually be talking a little bit more NHL just in a couple minutes here with one of my guests, Sean Warren from Area 51 podcast. So stay tuned for that. But we had a lot more sports actually to talk about, which is great. Last week I seemed like I was kind of running out of things, even though there was a lot of sports back. But so on Sunday, I don't know if people caught it. They might be hardcore fans there for the golf thing, but Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning versus Phil and Tom Brady. And Sunday afternoon saw a little bit of everything from the Medalist Golf Club in Florida. That wasn't just Charles Barkley's swing, which is all over the place. I do not know how he hasn't developed a more fluid swing over all these years. Like, it's just terrible. Okay. Tom Brady ripped his shorts. We may never know why he wore shorts that didn't fit him, but, it was a pretty fun event to watch. Woods and Manning looked like they were just going to make a drive out of things. See the golf pun there with drive. With an easy cruise in the front nine, but Brady made a charge in the back nine, including a great shot that proved once again that he can rip his pants on national television and still be better than everyone else. So in the end, Tiger and Manning were able to still get the win. It was a pretty cool event for charity. I mean, we're going to see golf kind of start back up in the next month in June here. So look forward to that. MLB actually had some news, which is exciting. And, in the past weeks, you may have noticed I've been reluctant to talk about Major League Baseball. And that is not because I'm not a huge fan of it. I absolutely love Major League Baseball. I'm going to be able to see some things back there. Got my signed Dave Stewart pitcher. I'm going to name drop Dave Stewart pitcher. But it's just that it's been an absolute tire fire so far. And I haven't really wanted to talk about it. So I feel like I need to, add my own fuel to it. With what's happening right now. After two failed proposals by the league to the Players Association, the third attempt did not go over very well. Some reason, instead of doing things behind closed doors like a well-run business, they seem to want to just be doing things openly in public, on Twitter, on everything, having people comment on their Twitch streams. It's not really looking good for business. And, I'm certain that they're going to get things going eventually and play some kind of a season. But this could potentially do a lot of harm next year when they're looking at doing their CBA agreements. So, we'll have to look forward to that next year, and we'll see how things go with the MLB. NBA so far has been a little bit quiet, which is weird. Kind of watching all the other leagues roll out their plans for returns. But don't be surprised if things heat up with the talks in Orlando if they're one of the first leagues that gets going out of the gate. So we got NFL news. And there wasn't very much going on with the NFL right now. The owners agreed to a couple rule changes, which I'm going to go over a little bit later with No Remorse Nate Doughty. So stick around and join me for that. And also, I lied to him. I told him we're going to be talking Cowboys. We're not. It's just going to be the opening Cowboys and Rams. That's it. Then we're going to move to more NFL related stuff. Going to talk and see if, they're actually coming back for the training camps and yeah. So, I don't know if we have him already here. I'll check with Lee. That's if you're new to the show, that's who's in my ear here is my producer, Lee. And let's see if we have my first guest ready. And we do. So joining me right now via audio is Sean Warren from Area 51 podcast. Sean, thank you very much for joining me so last minute. Oh, I don't know if you can hear me there.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, Sean. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me very last minute there.
Yeah, no problem at all.
So, Sean is from Area 51 podcast. I don't know if anybody needed to check that out on Twitter, and we'll definitely make sure at the bottom you'll be able to find all these links where you can check it out. Sean, how are you doing? How's the family? You guys staying safe and healthy right now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really busy actually with everything that's going on. I've become more busy than typical, but I can't complain there. It's everything's going good, so everybody's safe and healthy. So that's always a plus.
That's weird. I've actually found that a little bit too. That things have almost picked up now a little bit more than I expected things. So um, I wasn't able to send you off, pre questions like I like to do to my guests. So we're kind of just gonna be going by the seat of our pants. So I hope you don't mind on this, Sean. Thanks very
Yeah, no
much.
problem.
So I just wanted to get your takes on the NHL's plan. They revealed the 24 team play-ins, and what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, first off, I'm really excited to see hockey come back in whatever form. It's been a long time coming, and something that it's nice just to even know what's happening, right? Like that we
Yes.
can expect that there's hockey. We have something to plan for. Uh, Up until this moment, we didn't know if we were now in ready to kind of kick off full-fledged off season, or whether we were just kind of waiting on inevitable playoffs. My biggest concern with it, of course, is safety of everybody involved. Um, but I mean, if the NHL is able to address that, which they seem very confident that they are able to, I'm very excited to see the new format. And I don't think, uh, as far as asterisks go, a lot of people have been kind of talking about that. I don't see there being an asterisk. This is a difficult grind. Everybody's in the same boat. It's playoffs. It's unusual, but obviously, at the end of the day, the Stanley Cup's going to be handed out, and it'll be just as legitimate as every other season, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, anyone who's saying there's an asterisk, what these players and people are having to go through, and even to get back, and like you said, you mentioned the health regulations, and it's going to be super stringent. So there's definitely no asterisks in my mind either. So one of the things that that I kind of took there from what you said is how we have a plan now, and
Hmm.
that's that has been great to see that we actually have a plan and we have something to look forward to. Is there anything that you're a little bit skeptical? Obviously, I mean, there's health concerns, but with the plan, is there anything that you have skepticism about, maybe the hub cities or anything like that?
I think the hub cities idea is actually a really great idea. It kind of eliminates any travel concerns as long as I have a feeling as much as there's Canadian cities that are vying for the spot of being a hub city, that both hub cities will be in the U.S. simply because of the quarantine period, the 14 days, and I don't see Canada or any of the provinces really budging on that. As much as Edmonton is trying very hard with Alberta to get them to budge on it, I just don't see it happening. That being said, I am worried about. They were saying that if one player does get sick, it doesn't necessarily mean that the entire roster now has to quarantine. I'm just kind of worried about what that exactly looks like. And then as well, the self administration that players have to self do the test themselves. I just don't. If I'm a player and I want to play in the playoffs, and I've been waiting all year for this shot, this is my chance, and I feel like I'm a legit contender. We've seen many players go through some pretty horrific injuries and play through them. I just don't know if there'll be all players taking it as seriously as necessary, and what that means in the end if those guidelines aren't being very strictly followed. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from there.
Yeah, and while we do have a plan set out, there is so many question marks, in regards to things like that. I mean, you have to look at some of the younger players who, like you said, may not be as contingent to follow the rules or anything like that, as opposed to some of the older players who have families or have kids on the way or things like that. So
Exactly.
Um, so I guess I want to get more into talking about the actual hockey that we're going to get backstage, because I mean we got a couple months now to dissect everything. What matchups? Obviously, there's the Canucks Wild one, but what matchups are you looking most forward to?
I think that even series that are like Columbus versus Toronto, I think that there's some potential there for some great storylines to come out of that. Of course, with that one in particular, Columbus uprooting Tampa Bay historically in a four-game sweep. Obviously, not as strong as they were last season with departures from some major players, but I think Columbus is a very underrated team coming in. Could give Toronto a lot of difficulty, especially since Toronto runs a very similar style to Tampa Bay. So that could be an interesting one to watch. Of course, I think the next one that would be really special is going to be Calgary and Winnipeg, as those two teams like to play a very heavy game, very playoff-esque that we're very accustomed to watching. So I'm just excited to see just kind of where all the players are at coming out of this short training camp, out of the pause period, and to see just for how intense this gets, because we've never seen a playoff where every team has had time to get healthy and every team has had a training camp where they can specifically gear up for their next opponent and see the path that they'll take through the playoffs. So I'm interested in seeing just exactly how those few things affect the end product of what we get to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's neat that you mentioned that, kind of wanted their start because, this is the first time we're going to get a Stanley Cup Finals. Normally we're coming in and there's a hot team on one end, or somebody's cold, somebody from the top is starting to falter, or teams have injuries or anything like that. Like we're literally going to get back and it's going to be everybody starting right here and then just go full out.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting because a lot of it's going to come down to how hot of a start can you get off to, right? A lot of times those type of teams end up faltering pretty early because they have a great October. Maybe they have a great November and December as well, but it's a matter of carrying on through the grind of the entire season. That grind is gone now. So it's going to be interesting to see just how, especially for the Canucks, they had a lot of injuries coming into this. So a lot of players have been able to get healthy. Some of them have been playing with injuries for some time now. So it's going to be interesting. We haven't seen a lot of these teams at full strength. And now everybody having an opportunity to at least get as close as they can to that. I'm very excited to see what that end product looks like.
Yeah, I am too. And the fact that just having to come out, guns a blazing and with a fast start, it kind of means that a goalie can kind of come out and steal a series for you.
Absolutely.
So goaltending is going to have to be paramount in this. Is there a goaltender that, you don't want to face if you're looking at it? Because I mean, like if I'm a Canucks fan right now looking at the Wild, I'm looking at Devin Dubnyk and I'm looking at Alex Daylock, who took the job from Devin Dubnyk this year. I'm not too worried about that, but there's some other goaltenders that I probably wouldn't want to face.
Well, and I think that there was a lot of talk when they were voting on the format that different teams didn't want to face guys like Carey Price. And I think that's an interesting wrinkle to it because there are different players that are X factors or game breakers that if they're in a 5-game series can make a substantial difference. And as far as goaltenders go, for the Canucks route, for the 2 series that if they get past the Wild, they play the Avalanche, I don't see a lot of difficulty goaltending-wise. Francouz with Colorado has played well this season, but I don't think that would be the main concern going into a Colorado series. With the Wild, I just don't see a huge concern with Dubnyk or Stalock either. The biggest thing with them is going to be able to keep guys like Fiala in check and not let them blow coverage there. Out of the 3 games that the Canucks played the Wild, they ended up losing 2 of those, but one of the losses was in a shootout. So a pretty even matchup. Anybody that thinks that this is going to be a landslide either way, I think just is highly underestimating the opposition.
Yeah, we're gonna have a series between us. Like it's not gonna be a 3-game sweep for the Canucks. Like if Canucks fans, if that's what you're thinking, chill down a little bit here. We have two really good teams. They're not that far off, separated in points. So we're gonna get some good hockey out of this.
Well, I'm pretty evenly matched, right? Like Minnesota's turned into, and this is kind of strange to say this, but they've turned into more of an offensive team. They've got good defensive principles that have been instilled in them from the Boudreau era. They have goaltending that can step up, but it's not necessarily always a factor. But they also have some pretty cumbersome contracts and guys that uh, aren't that great and end up taking up a roster spot for them, much like the Vancouver Canucks. So
No wonder there are rivals.
exactly, it's just
Rivals.
yeah, it was meant to be that we would face the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Sean, I mean, you do work for Area 51 podcast and you guys are just coming. I mean, it almost seems like day by day you guys are coming out with new announcements, exciting news. What are you guys working on right now? Let everybody know, that people know where they can find you and all that jazz.
Absolutely. So we have expanded to all social media platforms. I've added 4 new members to the Area 51 family. So very excited to have more hands on deck to bring us to where we want to go with this. And ultimately, our end goal for Area 51 hockey is to be um, a constant stream of Canucks content and hockey content. And we know that that's going to have to be in multiple forms and multiple media types. So we're looking at expanding to video and to blogging and kind of being able to give Canucks fans whatever their ideal source of content intake. We supply that, and engagement's much higher as well. So you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, Facebook, at Area 51 Hockey Pod or at Area 51 Hockey, depending on whichever platform. And of course, our podcast, we put out an episode once a week on Sunday night at midnight. I've got a big surprise coming for this one that I haven't leaked to anyone yet. So
No, I was trying to guess it last night and throwing out guesses, and I was literally, I was probably, I'm not gonna, Lee's gonna yell at me after this, but instead of doing what I should have been doing, I was researching, I was trying to figure out who it was.
hey, fair enough. Yeah, I really enjoyed the guesses that people have thrown out, but none of them have been close yet, which is exciting. So
That
I
is.
guess I'd lead you with a hint that it is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion that has never played for the Canucks, and that would be kind of my last hint there with it. But
That's it.
I'm very excited to have him come on. It's somebody that when I started the podcast, I had a whole bunch of people that were my ultimate dream guests to bring on, and he was one of them. So it's nice to be able to check at least one name so far off that list.
That's awesome. I have a list as well. I'm not going to share with everybody because then, they can, I'll just get these people and I'll check them off myself. But so everybody, you need to make sure you check out Sean Warren and the Area 51 podcast. It'll be coming out this Sunday night.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and of course, you get to check the name off now with me being on. Of course, I'd be on that list.
You were, Sean, and absolutely, it's getting checked off right now. And I'm excited. I mean, I didn't actually want to add one of my guests I have later on because he's from Sports Talkline, but I'll check that one off the list too.
Perfect.
And hopefully, I would love to have you on again, but I will hopefully never have to have Nate No Remorse Doughty on my show again.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, I'm happy to do it.
So thank you very much, Sean, for joining me. And yeah, guys, we'll have the links in the bottom there, so you can check out all the stuff and follow him on Twitter and check out where you can find the podcast this Sunday night for his awesome guests. So thank you very much, Sean.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh.
Awesome. So that was Sean Warren from the Area 51 podcast, who was nice enough to jump on last minute. I messaged him at about 2:40 and said, Sean, can you do me a big favor? Can you jump on? We'll talk some NHL. We'll talk some Canucks. I know you got big guests coming on for your show, so we'll pump your Area 51 podcast. And that's the thing, right? So I want to bring you guys great content too. And I realized I can't do it myself. So I'm going to provide as much other avenues with my guests, with, guests who have other knowledge and other things that I can't necessarily provide you, because as much as I'd like to think so, I don't know everything. Right, Lee?
That's right.
I'm going to try and get my producer to talk sometimes. I'll see if he wants to. This is the segment that I didn't really write anything for. I'm going to leave it as the Josh's wide open segment. So, and then maybe I'll even get some fancy music that probably have to pay copyright fees. So I don't think I'll get fancy music. So yeah, I mean, we have sports coming back. We have live sports. We have sports that have set dates. We have sports that are tire fires and aren't doing anything, but we have sports. We have lots of sports to talk about. And then kind of people have recreational sports opening up a little bit right now, depending on where you're living, golf courses. No, he has to stay muted, so don't pick up typing and clicking. Okay, that works for me. So he's, yeah. So anyway, yeah, we have golf courses and stuff opening up, and depending on where you live, recreational facilities. What you want to do is make sure that you go out and enjoy them, but you follow the rules as you need to. You social distance. It's going to be a lot of different things. It's going to be a lot of golf ball etiquette that you're going to want to adhere to. So I'm gonna wait for those jokes because I know that my next guest is gonna join me in a couple of minutes, is gonna make enough of them, so I'm not gonna use them right now. So some of the individual sports that are coming back here, like I said a couple episodes ago, we got motocross that's coming back here at the end of the month. We're looking for that this weekend, actually. So you'll be able to tune into that. Golf's coming back. Some of the players in golf might not necessarily be able to come back depending on regulations coming out of Europe. But we should get a pretty good field of golfers going for when things get going in June. So like I said, I had a little bit of a hiccup. So my notes that I take and write a little bit before sometimes get a little bit jumbled up, especially when I have to switch guests, because then I have to make sure I don't say the old guest name and make sure I say the right guest name. So joining me in a couple minutes, and Lee, you can let me know when we have him on here, because I can get your messages. So we'll bring on from Sports Talk Line. It is Nate No Remorse Doughty. And I don't know if you guys haven't checked this guy out or listened to him on some of the roundtables. This guy's an absolute blast. He's a reason why we have to watch our censorship and make sure that we don't say the ish word too many times. We literally have been warned like 3 or 4 times from Rado and Lee about it. But he is the reason. He's always got a lot of fun stuff to say about the NFL. And I noticed that he now has his own show. So apparently they're not that special. I thought I was, they lied to me. I thought I was pretty special, but they're just giving them away like candy. But that's okay, because now people have the chance to tune in every day. You can tune into a different Sports Talk Line show. We got mine on Thursdays. We got Nate's on Mondays. We got Spinksy's on Saturday or Sunday if you're in Australia. See what I did there, Spinksy? If you're watching, I got you. So basically, we got the Roundtable Tuesday. We got the Dark Side of Sports that was on pause this week, but that should be back up next week. Basically, every day you're going to be able to tune into a different and awesome Sports Talk Line show. We're going to be covering different stuff. If you notice, I talk a lot of soccer. I'm going to be doing a lot of hockey and Canucks stuff as things go on. I'm going to be talking Canadian Football League, which I have yet to talk about because they're just kind of pleading at the government for money right now. So I'll worry about them when they kind of get things going up and going. My first episode, I featured Jerome Blake from Canada Track and Field, and I hope to have a lot more track and field athletes on, because I love to showcase Track and Field Canada. And just track and field in general. I think it's a sport that doesn't get enough love worldwide, except for, the once every 4 years that we all tune in for the Olympics. So, if I can give more kind of shed more light, so to say, on those kind of sports and get people watching them all year round, then that's something that I would love to do, because we got Diamond League coming up. It starts next month. It's going to actually get kicked off in August. On the 14th. So, we're going to be able to tune into that. And I don't know if anybody's been watching some of the pole vaulting competitions that the athletes have been holding themselves at their own backyard pole vaulting courses, where they've been kind of, doing it live. And Canadian Alicia Newman and a couple others were the latest to take part in this. So it's kind of cool to see everybody, staying involved in the sports and stuff like that. So I gave Nate a specific time, and it does not surprise me that he is not here yet. I told him 3:35, but that's fine because I'll just have to, you know what? That is the nature of today. Today's show is the Unnamed Sports Show on the Sports Talkland Network. I should probably plug it a little bit more. That has absolutely no flow. I have basically had to scrap all of my notes to this point. But there is lots of sports to talk about, which is great. I was hoping to get a Whitecaps player on again today, but I haven't heard back from them. So hopefully next week, looking to get either Maxime Crepeau or Theo Baer on to talk a little bit about the new training when it comes back on and just the possibility of getting back underway. And yeah, I guess, you know what? I'll just, I'll talk the NFL that I was going to talk without Nate. So the NFL they passed some new rules. They didn't go with the onside kick rule that a lot of people thought they were going to adopt. They passed a couple really arbitrary rules that kind of have nothing to do with it. There's like a long-term injury one that kind of stopped teams from running the clock after a penalty that was very, very rarely used. It didn't really affect the game either because you couldn't do it in the last 4 minutes of the fourth or 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. They made a couple other changes. It's basically business as usual in the NFL. One of the things that I plan on talking Nate about, if he's logging on now. So one of the things that I will talk to Nate about is if the NFL is going to be able to just, start up and go and be business as usual. Because with things right now, they're still in their off season. They can do everything like this. They can do these Zoom meetings. They can have all the players do their training at home. But when we get all started up a little bit later on for training camps, are things going to be able to keep going? So I'm very pleased to finally be joined by my gate here, my guest here, No Remorse Nate Doughty. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for welcoming into the Canadian Council here.
Oh, absolutely. If I had the power, I would make you an honorary member of Canada. I can't. Oh, that reminds me. I have to write them in my notes because I had to mention that's more important than you after, but I'll mention it. So thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing? How's your family? It's been a while since we chatted.
My family doesn't talk to me anymore. So yeah, I mean, other than that, great.
No remorse. What I told you people, if you haven't had talked to Nate before, he's an absolute blast. If you haven't checked him out, that's one of the things we're going to get to in a little while. So I lied to you a bit. I said, well, we'll talk some Cowboys and all that, but I don't want to talk about Cowboys. We can talk their first game and how bad you think they're going to lose to the Rams, and will Dak Prescott be their quarterback?
Hey, Dak Prescott is going to go ahead and take part of Jared Goff's extension that he got if he doesn't get a deal done by July 15th. He's going to go ahead and instead he's going to go in for the handshake at center field there, and he's going to slap Goff right across the face and take a good 25% of that contract. He told me.
That sounds about right. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he was a little bit peeved if he went into the season watching Goff make as much money as he did, not necessarily having as good as numbers right now.
Hey, that's a highway robbery, man. I mean, God bless that man and his agent. So,
hey, I'm okay as a Rams fan. I'm okay with it right now. So, let's talk some other teams because I don't want to just talk Dallas Cowboys. That's all you guys do. I don't understand it. You guys are all from LA. All you do is yell, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
Doing Spinksy and Van. I swear, you know what? The round table sometimes it should just be called Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, Josh, thank God you can't see what I'm wearing right now. I got a great leopard G-string on, but I have Spurs too.
Ooh. And thankfully, we only have the upper half of me.
Yeah. I got to stand up and stretch real quick.
Okay, and we're going to go to break, Lee. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's switch it up. Let's talk some football. So What are you thinking? What teams are people hyped about that you're kind of like, nah, I don't think so? And what teams right now are kind of nobody's talking about and you think you're going to do something?
Well, one team, first and foremost, that I really don't think are going to make as much noise as a lot of people think are the Buffalo Bills. They seem to be the front runners to win the AFC East at the moment, particularly with the absence of Tom Brady. I really, really don't think they're going to really take the division by the horns like a lot of people think they should, for the exact reason of Josh Allen. And I'm not talking about the pass rusher in Jacksonville. I mean, Josh, dude, you should be embarrassed to even share the guy's name. I mean, he should begin the witness protection program if he continues the way he has.
You know what? I had a good couple of days with Joshua Kimmich. I mean, it's spelled the same way. It's not pronounced the same way. But yeah, I mean, he goes by Josh. I'm Joshua.
You're much more formal, by the way. I mean, I have more respect for you just by going by Joshua than I would if you were to, cut the couple letters off.
Well, my shows, I try and keep it a little bit formal. I try and have some fun, but keep it formal. That's why I wear a shirt, with a collar and all that jazz.
That's why I look at my hair. I shaved my head for the sole purpose of not having to gel it or anything like that. And I still screw it up. So God bless you for you and your product. Anyway, going back to your question, just another team a lot of people, I think, are sleeping on right now is the Indianapolis Colts. If you look at their offseason right now and what they did with adding Phillip Rivers, trading for DeForest Buckner, and in the draft adding a stud at running back in the guy from Wisconsin, I'm forgetting his name right now, even though I'm hyping him up. And also in the second round, they went and got Michael Pittman Jr., the receiver from SC. I think he can go and contribute right away opposite of T.Y. Hilton. So I really look for them. If any team made a push that was not in the playoffs the year before, I think it's the Indianapolis Colts.
And that's a completely wide open division every single year. Like you're looking at 9-7 and you're getting in that division more or less.
Oh, I know. I mean, if you take a look at the Houston Texans, for instance, and the moves they've done with Bill O'Brien and, the defensive coordinator in Tennessee, Dean Pease, left this offseason. So I don't think that's a trivial loss on that department. So I do think that, to your point, the division is wide open.
Yeah, I mean, Jacksonville didn't get that much better. No. They're not going to be better next year. Maybe, they had a nice draft, so they might be better in a couple of years. But I can definitely see the Colts coming out.
I think they're not making any mistake about it. They're tanking for Trevor Lawrence. They're tanking for Trevor. They're losing for Lawrence, whatever how you want to phrase it. That's the game plan right now.
Okay, well, you mentioned the Buffalo Bills as being one of the teams that's kind of underrated. So who do you think in the AFC East is going to emerge? I mean, the Patriots, maybe Miami with Tua?
No, I think it's still the Patriots division right now. If you look at the analytical data there is out there on the defensive side of the football, the Patriots were close to the top of the league in just every metric.
You don't look at analytical data.
Well, I just got in my earpiece that, this was the thing to say, and that's the way it should be. So,
it sounded really good. But I'm not going to lie. I also could see the Patriots walking away with the AFC East once again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's unfounded at all to think Jarrett Stidham is going to outplay Josh Allen at all. And actually, that's my prediction as of right now.
I'm going to write that down because that's not that far fetched. Like if I was going to ask you for a hot take and that's what you said, I'd be like, that's not that hot.
Yeah, I got the hot takes and the hot cakes, baby.
Yes, sir, you do.
I thought you'd do that.
Now let's talk some CFL.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's something in Chinese Football League.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we're not going to talk CFL, but that's fine. But people, stay tuned. We are actually I'm going to talk some CFL on my show. I got a couple cool guests lined up for you, and the only reason I haven't talked about them.
I will say this though about the CFL: they are onto something, and I think a lot of NFL teams are incorporating their style of play. For instance, they only have 3 downs. And so it puts a lot more pressures on their quarterbacks to make plays in 2 downs, where I think that's the way the NFL is heading right now. Just the desperation, I shouldn't say the desperation, but the urgency to get out of 3rd down situations. It seems to be the case a lot, at least amongst the top teams in the league.
Well, and something too that the NFL have seemed to adopt from the CFL is just in regards to all the motion the CFL can use. You're seeing it now a lot with the fly offenses and stuff, and trying to get multiple people moving at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things you can learn, particularly in the way just the openness in which they play.
Okay, well, that's all. That was more CFL than I thought I was going to get out of you. So that's
good. Well, do I get my citizenship now? Come on, I indulged.
It's pretty much that easy. I think you got to sing the national anthem properly.
Watch hockey.
Ride a moose holding a Tim Hortons coffee while watching hockey or something like that, and then here's your card.
Well, I kiss a picture of Justin Trudeau before I go to bed every night, so I'm hoping that helps.
Well, better than Justin Bieber, who's also Canadian.
Well, why not include both of them? I mean, you're getting political and you're getting entertainment, and I indulged you in your sports talk, okay? So that's the trifecta.
That's true. I'm really, Rado's going to have his work cut out from after his fishing trip with all this SEO, with all this stuff we're talking about.
Yeah, don't believe a word that comes out of Rado's mouth. I mean, that guy should never.
Thank you. He's a liar. I know. He's like, oh, I'm going on a fishing trip. He's like, I got to get things ready for fishing in the morning. I'm like, what?
That's his way of trying to be an American, a fishing trip. That really is standard for some sort of a communist manifesto, whatever he's doing behind the scenes.
Oh, I want to come on your show and talk real football. Well, then come on the show and talk real football. Don't go fishing.
Yeah, don't go fishing. Anyway, that's another story. But it's another interesting story as far as NFL football is concerned is what's going on with Jamal Adams, because he's been alienated with the front office for over a year now. So, and guess where he wants to play, Joshua?
I know.
Guess where
as soon as you mentioned Jamal Adams, I was like, damn it, he's going to bring up the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, I didn't even name names here. I specifically highlighted the New Jersey Jets, and because they play in Jersey, they're New Jersey. Come on.
New Jersey Nets.
But anyway, I think it's a big mistake that they're not trying to pay these guys. If you look at the trends through the league, it's basically showing that guys in their rookie contracts are starting wanting to get paid earlier and earlier. And the earliest they can get paid is after their 3rd year in the league. So you saw Ezekiel Elliott holding out a year before. Now you can see a possibility of Jamal Adams holding out. And you see more and more people doing this in their 3rd year without a new contract.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we could be seeing more of too in the future, and I don't know when the next CBA is. If Lee, you want to figure that out for me, I don't know if you know, Nate, when the next
2021. I mean, they signed the new CBA. Luckily, so we didn't get a holdout, but it's interesting because if you remember, the last time there was a brief holdout was in 2011 with the NFL. They didn't have OTAs. They actually cut into training camp slightly. And so I think if you're looking for a parallel for this football season, look back at 2011, because 2011, like this year, we've stripped OTAs and we stripped off-season conditioning workouts. So if you're looking for a parallel, the way games were played, look at 2011.
So that brings me right into my next question that I actually do have written down. Do you think that we're, it's business as usual right now in the NFL, but do you think that when, training camps actually have to get going, do you think we're going to get some delays? Do you think we're going to have, the start dates right when they say they're going to happen?
From what I've heard right now, they expect, and many people in front offices expect business as usual, no delays or anything like that. However, that doesn't mean there won't be limitations to crowds and stuff like that. So that's going to be the interesting part, because if you look at that teams that are unveiling their new stadium, like the Rams week 1, the Seattle Seahawks really depend on the 12th man.
Yes.
So it's interesting how that's going to affect at least the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it could be interesting, with no fans there. Judging from what so far I've seen in some of the other sports that have been doing it in, Korean baseball and stuff like that, and then the Bundesliga that's back now, it hasn't really affected product on the field. But I mean, I guess, even a closer kind of comparison would be almost the WWE or UFC, which have seemed to come back without fans, and you're still getting the great stuff, but you're almost even getting more different things, hearing all the players and the coaches and things like that.
Yeah, particularly in MMA, because I've never heard it before that it was really something the commentators were conscious of. It's like, oh God, they can hear me. I could be giving them advice, and it affected some fights because they could hear their corners much more clearly. However, if there was a sport that was least affected by the crowd noise so far, I'd have to say it's MMA.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, they haven't really needed it, but I mean, like something like WWE where it's supposedly, that kind of psychs them up and that gets them going, where, that's kind of the same thing that we were talking about with the 12th man and stuff like that. So, they seem to have gotten past it without any issues or anything right now. Do you think it would be that big of a deal for the players to, not have all that behind them, not have, the offense being drowned out or things like that?
I think the franchises that are going to have the biggest detriment is college sports. No doubt about it. I mean, I said on the roundtable on Tuesday, I mean, you strip away the crowds in the SEC and the Big Ten, you just have a bunch of students in pads. I mean, nothing separates the college game from the program like the crowd and just the fervor in the audience. So once you take that away, I mean, you just have a bunch of students.
Yeah. I mean, like some of the 80,000, 100,000 people stadiums. I mean, it's a procession. They come to the stadium, they go about their thing. They paint their faces, they yell and scream. It's something. And you see a lot with soccer, and that's why I was kind of surprised that the Bundesliga didn't. The play on the field wasn't affected as much. So.
Yeah, that's one thing. I'm never a fan, but I am a big fan of hooliganism, however. I mean, I think if you know how to do it right, you do it. It's just great. And it was funny because I saw a small Vice documentary about an American. I'm going to call him an imposter, but this guy just wanted to be English so bad. I mean, he just go and get absolutely hammered at these MLS games and then wanted to start fights with people that just didn't care. The enthusiasm was there, but it just doesn't translate to the United States like that.
No, not yet. It's and it's a little bit tamer, but you definitely see it a little bit in some of the the bigger matchups, and definitely down in Mexico. They have some pretty crazy soccer there where they have to play sometimes without fans because the hooliganism.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember they were what was during one of the World Cups, the Spanish national team. Their fans would go puta or something like that when just during something they didn't like. So they're actually a great fan base.
Yeah, I had Marcel De Jong from Pacific FC on last week, and he played in the Bundesliga in Germany. And one of the things that he talked about was just how he loved just the fans, the ones that loved him, and then the ones that hated him too. Like they'd be at away cities in the bus, and they'd be yelling and screaming and throwing things and throwing beer and dumping beer all over them. And he's like, it just gets you excited to play, gets you pumped up in the mood.
Yeah, that's one thing I will have to say. Bills Mafia are doing something right. I mean, if you haven't done it, check it out. I mean, these guys are power bombing each other through flaming tables and stuff like that, just doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So, Bills Mafia, thank you. You deserve all the praise that you get.
No, disclaimer, do not do what the Bills Mafia is doing. No one should be doing what the stupid Bills Mafia is doing. Do not light things on fire and try and jump through them.
I wouldn't say that, Josh. They're a hop, skip, and a jump away from Canada. So, you gotta play nice with these people.
That's true. But they're like, I'm sure you know how big Canada is wide. They're kind of far away from me, so I'm fine.
Yeah, but that's how invasion starts. Once they start on the far East Coast, and then they're going to start creeping and creeping and creeping. And before you know, they're going to be in Vancouver.
That is true. And an invasion is a perfect segment to what I want to talk about next, because you have invaded the Sports Talkline Network and now you have your own show. They're giving them away like candy, but it's fantastic.
Exactly. You don't know how long I was having to just debate with people just to give me my own show. I mean, I was being censored left and right because they view me as a threat. That's how I justify it. Anyway, normally this last week I did a show, an hour-long show on Monday. I'm saying, you know what? It's quarantine. I'm going to be generous to the people. The American people and the people across countries all over the world need a quarantine hero. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to provide content 5 days a week here. I'm going to do a segment per day. Instead of smashing it all together, I'm going to spread it out, bring in joy 5 days a week.
5 days a week of Nate No Remorse Doughty. I don't know if I can even handle that. I
just mute, man. Just unsubscribe. You just unsubscribe to your own,
No. Subscribe. I actually have it in my notes. So subscribe while I say that right now. Make sure while you're here, subscribe down on our YouTube channel for Sports Talkline. Because me and I don't know, where are you on my side? I don't know. Because me and Nate would both appreciate it. Check out Nate's shows. They're going to be coming, like he said, 5 days a week on Sports Talkline. We got the Sports Talkline Roundtable on Tuesday. Spinksy's got his college show, which, Nate, I think you're a part of too. Are you not on Saturdays?
Yep.
Or Sundays down under?
Yeah.
Lucas is going to give me a hard time for my Australian accent, I'm sure, after this. But yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe and check all this stuff out. We got lots of content coming out all the time. And check out Nate's show.
Absolutely.
Nate, thank you very much for joining me. Where can everybody find you on Twitter and all that jazz?
Yeah, don't listen to the name right there. Just, if you're going to do yourself a favor, listen to Groupthink and join the millions of people on Twitter right now that are in queue to go and follow me. You can find me at No Remorse Sports, no spaces, no drama. Come find your boy.
So before I let Nate go, I laughed so hard one day in the green room when he hadn't had his name changed to No Remorse Nate Doughty, and I found out his actual name was Nathan, because it makes him sound so much tamer than he actually is. Like, oh, Nathan's coming on.
You're lucky.
No remorse.
You're lucky it's not Nathaniel. It'd make it sound like I'm an Amish guy in 1792 or something.
Well, as always, Nate No Remorse Doughty on Twitter, no spaces. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you have a great day.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's good to talk to a now fellow Canadian.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. So like I said, if you haven't listened to Nate before or been entertained by his great stuff, then you need to check it out. He's a blast. We literally go through our pretty much our weekly quota of inappropriate things that are said or allowed to be said, thanks to him. So thank you, Nate, and thank you very much for joining me. And I want to thank everybody else for joining me. As always, like the video, subscribe to it to check it out. Check out the sportstalkline.com website, where you can find tons of great content. The article by Rado, who will be out fishing. You can check it out there. I'm going to have lots of great articles coming up. I just had one about why a bunch of people love sports, so you can check that out there. And make sure to follow me on Twitter at Joshua Griffith0. So for the Sports Talkline Network, this has been the Unnamed Sports Show. I've been your host, Joshua Griffith. And as always, love sports, all sports. Thank you for joining.